じて
Alright, welcome back to another episode of the Nighttime series. Today we have a major news drop with Spider-Man Supreme, Spot, and Iceman. So, balance updates came out for Spider-Man Supreme and Spot, and it's looking like they are staying the same. So that is very awesome. I want to go more in depth of like why I think they stayed the same. I also want to talk about the Iceman buff that they announced, which is looking pretty interesting. So yeah, overall, things are looking pretty nice. And I also want to mention the Spider-Man OG rework that's going to happen soon, because that's also looking pretty nice as well. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So first, let's talk about Spider-Man Supreme and Spot. So Spider-Man Supreme, he is staying the same, and I feel like this is a good thing because I don't think he needs to be like rebalanced at all. I feel like he's a very balanced character in general. I feel like there's nothing too powerful that he does, though he does have access to some pretty nice cheese. It's only like occasional though. I posted a video about it where he just cheesed the 6.3 Hyperion because like he can power steal and root the opponent, and what that means is when the opponent is rooted, they can't use a special attack, right? So if you can power steal enough to get back to an SP3 before the root ends, then you can just like infinitely loop the root, and they just cannot do anything at all for the entire fight. I've only done this versus the 6.3 Hyperion, but I feel like he is capable of doing this like elsewhere as well. So yeah, that's like the only thing that I would say is pretty overpowered with Spider-Man Supreme. Besides that, he has access to some really good like cheese with like fury buffs, because he can like siphon a ton of fury buffs and gain a ton of attack rating from it as well. But those are the only things that like kind of concern me, but they chose not to like fix it, and I think that's completely fine because they're very niche things overall. Spider-Man Supreme is a pretty niche character when it comes to utility. His damage output is fine to like work anywhere. He's a really good battleground attacker for that reason. So yeah, overall, I feel like Spider-Man Supreme, it's good that they kept him the same because he didn't need a nerf, he didn't need a buff either, to be honest. And yeah, still has his cheese mechanics, which is awesome. He's like capable of cheesing a lot of very niche things, and still a really awesome utility champion. Overall, I still love the character. He's still my favorite Mystic champion of 2022, and I just cannot wait to hopefully get him and rank for him in the next featured. So yeah, overall, looking good for Spider-Man Supreme. I'm glad they didn't change him at all because right now he's a really good character. Now let's talk about the one that's kind of surprising, and this is Spot. So Spot is a very busted damage dealer. At like max sig, this dude has an onslaught of damage. It is quite amazing just how powerful his damage output is. But then you put an untouchable mechanic on top of that, and then things get kind of problematic because this guy can just like do so much. He can do so much stuff, man. He has access to buff immunity. The untouchable is just insane. It ignores so many no's, man. Like, people don't realize how like powerful a miss mechanic that long is, because he pauses it. He pauses his untouchable, right? So like, it can last up to like 20 or 25 seconds, I feel like. It is quite an overpowered miss mechanic. And you pair on one of the best science damage dealers out there. Like, his SP2 is insane. His SP2 hits so hard. So he is like arguably one of the best science damage dealers because his burst damage is just so fast. He is such a battlegrounds monster because of how fast his like burst damage is to access. So yeah, you pair all those things, and you have a pretty broken character. In my opinion, he is a top 5 champion of the year, and he is by far the best character to pull in the next featured. Not Infamous Iron Man. Maybe Absorbing Man has a case now, but I feel like Spot is still the number 1 pull. He is just a really strong character. So is Absorbing Man though. Like, those two are like carrying the feature, to be honest. Honestly, the only miss in the next feature is Shuri, but she might get a buff next month, so we'll see. Hopefully she does. She really deserves it, man. She's a really like fun character to play, but it's just like everything just doesn't work, right? But yeah, Spot, really, really good damage dealer, really powerful utility character, just combines to make this really busted champion, and they chose not to fix him, or they chose not to rebalance him, and I'm glad, because this is what we need. We need a really good, like, we need an occasional broken character, right? And Spot is just that. So I'm really happy that they chose not to fix him, because we, like, Gallon didn't get fixed, right? Valkyrie didn't get fixed. Hulkling, none of them got, like, rebalanced. And I feel like Spot is kind of below them overall. So I'm happy that he didn't get changed, because he, like, is just a really strong character. He's on the stronger side of balance, but he's still balanced, I feel like, right? I think he is like a top 5 science champion, but he's still a balanced champion. There's nothing too broken about him. He's just a really powerful character. His damage output, extremely powerful. His utility, super powerful. That's where I would make the case. Like, maybe the untouchable is a bit too broken, but not broken enough to warrant a rebalance, because it is It can be countered, of course. It just, like, it isn't, like, the most broken thing ever. It's not Hercules' immortality, right? It's just a really good mechanic to have for a champion. So, overall, I think Spot doesn't really deserve a rebalance. He is a very strong champion as is. He is, like I said, he is on the higher side of balance, like, as in he is right on the cusp of being, like, a little bit too broken, but he's still balanced overall. He's just really, really powerful. So yeah, Spot, looking good for him as well. I'm glad they didn't change him, and look forward to pulling him in the next feature, because if you pull him, then congrats, you pulled the best character in the Crystal. And maybe Absorbman too. They're both, like, absolute bangers, to be honest. But yeah, now let's talk about Iceman. So they announced that since Spider-Man Supreme and Spot aren't being touched, that they are going to rebalance Iceman. They're going to give him a bit of a buff to his damage output and his immunities and a bit of his utility. So he's going to be finally Cold Snap immune. Took him long enough, man. Oh my gosh. Like, how is he not immune to Cold Snap? Additionally, they're going to buff his damage output, which is great, and they're going to give him some more utility. So I made a video about Iceman. That is my most viewed video right now, actually, where he is an absolute monster with the Scorpion synergy. And here's what I want. Here's what I want from the Iceman buff. I want them to put some of those synergies into his base kit, so he doesn't have to rely on a 4-team synergy squad to make him good. So if they put, like, 1 to 2 of the synergies into his base kit and, like, make him want another, like, team member where you just want, like, 2 characters in total, that's not bad at all. If they put all the synergies into his base kit, okay, he might be a little bit broken. I'm gonna be real. He might be a bit busted. But honestly, Iceman deserves it. He's a really old character. You need to give him some love. What I would love to see is that he just has all of his synergies into his base kit. He would be arguably, like, top 15, top 10 mutant. Like, because the damage output when he's with his full synergies is just insane. It is absolutely insane. He becomes on, like, the higher end of mutant damage dealers. He still has all of his utility as well. So it would just be a monstrous buff. And I hope that they do that, man. But I don't really have hope because all of the tune-ups have been kind of mediocre except for Gore. Gore really helped them a lot. I'm not necessarily saying that Gore is good now, but he did get helped a lot from the tune-up. But yeah, Iceman is already decent as is. Hopefully this tune-up makes him, like, in the good to great range. That would be amazing, but who knows, man. But now let's talk about the final thing, which is the Spider-Man OG rework, pretty much confirmed. So MCOC dropped a new image of the Spider-Man Originals, like, reworked suit, and it looks amazing, man. And this pretty much confirms that he is getting changes. He is getting a rework, people are saying. So yeah, I'm, like, looking forward to that. I don't know how they're going to build him. I hope they build him as, like, a science damage dealer. Just, like, a straight-up pure damage dealer. That's what I want out of the character. Because I feel like we have a lot of utility-based science champs already. But we don't have a damage dealer that is just, like, straight-up just, like, pure damage. Like, Scorpion is the closest thing we have to that. Of course, he is one of the strongest damage over time dealers. But I just want, like, a non-damage over time dealer. I just want, like, a strong basic attack, special attack, science damage dealer, because I feel like we don't really have that. Like, Sentry can be that with, like, a full synergy and full ramp up, but honestly, it's just too much work for him. I want just, like, a really fast access, like, good in battlegrounds attacker, and I hope the Spider-Man Original is that. So yeah, hopefully this is a good buff. The OG Hulk rework is phenomenal. I want to save that for another video though, because I just want to, like, go in depth when he comes out and just talk about why I think he's so good. But yeah, hopefully, like, this is on par with, like, the Hulk rework. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. Just a lot of talk about upcoming buffs. I'm so excited for, like, the Iceman buff and the Spider-Man Original rework. I hope that's a really, really good one. I just want this, like, damage-focused character that I can just use every day in questing and battlegrounds. That'll be really awesome. Of course, if they put, like, some utility on him so he can work in some metas, and hopefully they do that really well. So let me know your thoughts on the Iceman and OG Spider-Man upcoming buffs. Let me know your thoughts on Spider-Man Supreme and Spot, and if you think they should have been rebalanced or not. And yeah, that's about it for me.